What's up, everybody? So this is going to be a competitive guide on the brand new evolution of Primeape and one of the very best Pokemon in both singles and doubles right now, Annihilape. Getting straight into its typing, Annihilape is our second ever ghost fighting Pokemon after Marshadow, and the typing is still as good as ever. Defensively, it's kind of average, a few weaknesses, but you get some nice immunities too. But what really makes ghost fighting so good is that it's the absolute best offensive dual stab in the entire game, because until Hisuian Zoroark comes out, there are zero Pokemon that resist both fighting and ghost, so you don't even really need coverage on this thing. It's amazing. But the typing is definitely not the only thing that Annihilape has going for it. Looking at Annihilape's stats, we see that we have a really good 110 HP as well as 115 attack, which is also quite good. 80 defense here is decent. It's good enough, especially paired with that really good HP stat. It definitely gets the job done. 50 special attack doesn't matter to us. No wasted stats here, so, we're fine with that. 90 Spadef is also quite good, once again, really solid. With the 110 HP and the 80-90 defense and special defense, we're definitely, very tanky. And then you got a 90 speed stat to top it off, which is like, honestly, 90 speed is actually like okay. It's not even too bad. So overall, just pretty good, well-rounded stats. Bulky Pokemon with a good attack and workable speed tier. Just overall nice. You can't feel bad about these stats at all. As for abilities, there's Inner Focus, which honestly, no real reason to ever run Inner Focus. Main way that Pokemon are going to flinch you is Fake Out, and you're immune to that anyway, being a ghost type. And then Defiant strictly just a better anti-intimidate ability than Inner Focus, so there's just no real reason to ever go Inner Focus. Vital Spirit is kind of niche, but obviously being immune to like Spore from Amoonguss and Breloom is nice. But I would say in most situations, Defiant's going to be the best. Not only do you get that attack boost from getting intimidated, but even things like Defog, Sticky Web, Snarl, Icy Wind, you take advantage of all of these things. Defiant's just a really good ability to have in general. Now, getting into sets, this is definitely the set I'm gonna have to talk about the most, because this set is, this set's the reason why Annihilape is honestly such a broken Pokemon right now. So the first thing we have to talk about, of course, is the Annihilape line's signature move, Rage Fist. So the way Rage Fist works is that it's a 50 base power ghost move, which is like, okay, sure, that's whatever, not a big deal. But the thing with it is every single time Annihilape gets hit, that move gets 50 base power stronger. Every single time you get an additional 50 base power. So if you get hit once, it's at 100 BP. That's basically Poltergeist. If you get hit twice, it's at 150 BP. And it goes up to a maximum of 350 BP. Even if you switch out, even if you literally die and get revived later, you will never lose these boosts. This move is honestly just absurd. Like, a move that punishes you for attacking the Pokemon in front of you is crazy, especially for a bulky Pokemon like this without reliable recovery, because typically you'd want to wear something like this down over time. But, that U-turn you decided to throw out on this thing, or that like weak, move from your defensive Pokemon that you decided to throw out on this thing, anything that you throw out against this Pokemon is just making it stronger and stronger and stronger. And on this set, we're going to run Max Spadef in HP. And with a fully invested 110 HP and 90 Spadef, we could take on tons of powerful special attackers. Even stuff like Iron Valiant and Goldango don't OHKO you. And honestly, with Terastallization, you can make them play mind games as well, because the Iron Valiant might be like, oh, it's okay, I got Specs Moonblast, I can do like 85 to this Annihilape, and then you turn into a fire type or something else, and then it gets one shot by Rage Fist, and it's like, oh god. And that's what Annihilape does. That's what Annihilape does. But yeah, not only are we gonna have all of that Spadef, but we're also gonna have bulk up on this set, which is going to make it very hard for physical Pokemon to come in and like deal with us. Even some of the strongest physical attackers in the game, like Roaring Moon and Shampao, you get one or two bulk ups and they're not going to be able to touch you, and they're going to get destroyed by Drain Punch too. So yeah, it's tough to deal with this thing even offensively. yeah, it has 90 speed and it doesn't have priority or any way of like boosting its speed, but it's just so bulky that unless you heavily wear it down, it's gonna be hard to beat it 1v1, and wearing it down means you're getting it stronger. Drain Punch, like we talked about earlier, is just like the perfect complement to Rage Fist. It hits all the dark types and normal types that would, you know, normally try and take a Rage Fist, and also just gives us sustain, because there is no reliable recovery on Annihilape. The last move you would want to run on this bulk up set is usually Taunt or Rest. So Taunt is great because, you know, when you think about it, you want Pokemon to attack you, and Taunt forces them to attack you. Think about like something like Clodsire. Like if Clodsire's just sitting on you and it's like, oh, you know, it's okay, I'll just Toxic this and I don't have to interact with this. You taunt Clodsire and it's either you hit me with these weak Earthquakes and give me these free Rage Fist boosts, or you leave. And even if they try and leave, like, you know, you don't really want to switch in a lot of offensive Pokemon onto Annihilape because, you know, Annihilape's a strong Mon and beats most of them 1v1 anyway. But you also don't want to switch in defensive Pokemon onto Annihilape because then they're just going to meet the same fate as Clodsire, get taunted, and you're going to get put back into that same exact situation. Like, this thing just destroys fat builds because, like, your Unaware Dondozo can't curse its way out of this. Your Amoonguss can't, like, Panic Spore this. Your Corviknight can't stop this. Like, this Mon just obliterates anything that's remotely passive. But Rest with Chesto Berry is another option if you don't want to go Taunt, because it does give you a recovery option if you get low. Like, you get like a full heal, obviously, with the Chesto Resto. And it's also a way to cleanse yourself of any status like that you might end up taking over the course of the game, like if you do get, you know, burnt or toxic for whatever reason. So Rest is definitely another option. I've kind of been leaning more towards Taunt, but Rest is still really good. Now in VGC, I've just run Protect in this last slot. Protect's just a consistent option, and in VGC, I've been pairing this with Grimmsnarl on screens with Weakness Policy because it's just kind of ridiculous. Like, even if you run a more offensive spread than this, like, nothing's killing you behind screens. You know, like, you're good luck killing Annihilape behind screens. So there's just no way to avoid giving this a Rage Fist boost. And really, just 1 or 2 Rage Fist boosts is all you need to just clean up a lot of these teams. And while Bulk Up Rage Fist is definitely like the most broken set, it's not the only set that's been getting play. Scarf Final Gambit is also a good option. Final Gambit with your crazy high 110 HP is a really good option, and you could use this to pretty much remove any Pokemon that you want. Especially for offensive teams, like, you can just use this to trade Annihilape for a Trick Room setter, and there's not a lot of counterplay to it. Even like a really bulky, annoying defensive threat, you could just Final Gambit and take a ton of HP off of them, or just straight up kill most of them. So this is also a good option. You can run Close Combat on this set because it's just your strongest stab, and we don't care as much about lowering our defenses on this set, unlike the Bulk Up Rage Fist set where, you know, we're trying to take as many hits as possible. Brick Break's also an option if you just want a fast Mon that destroys screens, that could help out your other Pokemon. U-Turn is just good in general. Like, you know, like, Scarf is like pretty potent as well. You can mess around with like a Choice Band and run a similar set, maybe with like Ice Punch or something instead of Final Gambit, and just use it as a breaker. But I think like Scarf or definitely Bulk Up Rage Fist are just more effective at what they do generally. But like, you know, that's also like an option you could do. As for Terra options, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but Annihilape is a Pokemon that primarily wants to terrestrialize defensively. Water and Fairy are just like generic good defensive types that are hard to take advantage of. Very few weaknesses. They're just pretty good options. Fire is really good though, because not only do you get a Fairy resistance, which is, you know, a lot of people want to use strong Fairies to try and, like, you know, do a lot of damage to Annihilape, but you also can't get burnt, which is great because you're not able to get intimidated. So the only way that teams, like most teams, really are able to cripple you offensively is with a burn. So getting that burn immunity is really nice. Steel is also a good option because it covers your natural flying, fairy, and psychic weaknesses. But you could also just go something like normal to cover the ghost weakness, or just ghost or fighting if you just want to hit harder. Like, Annihilape has a ton of Terra options, and it's gonna really be based on what your team wants or what you want Annihilape to kind of abuse to set up. But yeah, at the end of the day, Annihilape is a really hard Pokemon to deal with. Its incredible bulk combined with Rage Fist just makes it a huge threat. It kind of punishes you for playing the game you're supposed to play, the way you're supposed to play the game. It's so strong, it's so fat, and in my opinion, it's a top 5 Pokemon in the OU metagame currently. And honestly, it's probably like a top 10-ish mon in VGC as well right now. Especially if you're somebody who really doesn't like fat, defensive, stally Pokemon, you should definitely think about putting Annihilape on your team because, well, he annihilates all of those Pokemon. So that's going to conclude this guide on Annihilape. If you're interested in more content on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you can like this video, subscribe to the channel, do all of that, and I'll see y'all next time.